Welcome to this month's conversation, the best of February at Competitive, where we take a look at the top tweeted stories from at Competitive. I'm joined by my usual ally, Eamon. Welcome, Eamon.
Thank you.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
This month's most popular tweeted article, most read article, comes from an online marketing agency. And if you look at marketers, there's a lot of elements that make a strong marketer: creativity, project management, research. But this person is saying, above all else, there's one essential background or training that would make a marketer just absolutely amazing. And that background, she says, is journalism. That every marketer, she emphatically says, should be trained in journalism. It's no surprise that this author actually was trained in journalism, and she writes a 11-page, what she calls love letter to journalism. And we are joined on the line by Kelly Quigley, who is our journalist. She actually trained or was in Chicago here in the main office, or in the main city where our office is located, working for Crane Chicago Business, and then located herself in San Diego, where I believe she worked for the San Diego Business Journal.
Yeah, the San Diego Business Journal.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And now she's,
yeah. Well, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Great to have you, Kelly. Now, she's changed her, gone from journalism to wearing a PR hat on our PR team at Competitive Group. And this 11-page article, there's a lot of tips and things that she learned from journalism and how she applies those tips to marketing. And Kelly, we really wanted to get a sense of all the things that she said here, having come over to PR marketing. What really resonated with you?
I think that the best points of the story are just that you have to make it easy for the reader to engage with your writing. And too often in marketing or in PR, there's companies writing press releases and they just aren't keeping the audience squarely in their focus. So I think that there really needs to be that kind of journalistic focus on the audience, making it easy and engaging for the reader to get through your story. Providing great headlines and compelling copy, and writing in a really strong, active voice that keeps people engaged.
Cool, Kelly, it's Eamon speaking here. So just to sort of break down into some more specifics, you mentioned active voice. Also in this article, there's a lot of talk about the storytelling aspect. Can you talk us through active voice and how someone goes about bringing the active voice into their writing, and how often you see people ignore that rule in marketing?
Active voice is something that's very important, and I just see it way too often. Companies using a passive voice to tell their story. An example would be, saying that the experiments were conducted by scientists. That would be passive. Active would be changing that sentence, so it would read, the scientists conducted the experiment, where the scientists are actually doing something. That's something that's pretty simple. It seems like it's pretty simple, but I think that it's a concept that more companies, especially science companies, need to understand, because there's certainly a style of writing that's customary in science and on the academic side, and I think that usually leans more towards passive voice. Mm-hmm. So it does take a shift to move your writing to active, but it really does pay off because it creates much more engaging copy.
Absolutely, I think it makes it sound a little bit more dynamic and a little bit more vibrant, and makes it seem like the person who's reading it is in the story. When it's done with that passive voice, you kind of feel like the rest of the story is already a foregone conclusion, as though you're being told after the fact.
Right, I mean, it's just boring. It's just plain old boring.
Right. So another one that catches, I think, a lot of people out, and I didn't have the same upbringing in journalism as you, but I did consider it as a career at one stage, and I trained under a journalist for a while. And of course, I'd come out of English. I'd studied English at school, and then did a major in English and thought of myself as a reasonable writer. And then you start writing copy for a journalist or someone who has this sort of brevity of expression and packing as much information to as few words as possible. And someone with that focus, it's often horrifying how many words they're able to cut out of your copy. Would you have any sort of view on word count? I know there's always that idea of as many words as you need to tell the story, but do you see regularly people over-explaining things, using redundant phraseology, and just explaining things that perhaps aren't relevant to the story?
Yes, definitely. I mean, especially in PR and marketing, there's a tendency to overwrite and be too wordy. Just keep it simple. Use a short word versus a long word that people don't know. Just really try to be exact in your writing. You're not writing a romance novel. You're trying to engage readers and make them take action. So you just need to be really succinct and direct in your writing. Which
is kind of counterintuitive for those of us who fancied ourselves as writers at one point to dumb it down so much. And I guess it's sort of where there's a slight disconnect between the idea of being a good writer in terms of the poetic side of things and a good writer in terms of your communication skills.
It's possible to be both. I mean, you can be poetic and be brief. You don't have to exchange one for the other, and you don't have to dumb it down necessarily either. You just have to be very aware of what's compelling to read. And, think about yourself as a reader. What do you like to read? You like to read things that are, most likely you like to read things that are direct and engaging and include some great facts and, don't make you do a whole lot of work to get to the point of the article. You want to cut to the chase a little bit.
It's interesting. We talk about science writers writing in passive voice, which tends to extend or distend and bloat the length of a sentence or even a paragraph. But I think the challenge is in universities is how they approach writing. When they provide an assignment, what does the professor say? He usually says, "Oh, this has to be at least 2,000 words." So you're already gunning for word count during university curriculum, and to make that word count, you're packing in your sentences with all these words. So, once we start peeling that back and shifting to active voice, and our clients are responsive to that kind of editing. I was just actually looking at one of Kelly's edits to an article written by a scientist, and instead of one paragraph that was packed with 3 sentences, each at 30 words long, she changed that to 4 paragraphs, each with 1 sentence and at 20 words. And it read a lot clearer. It was, if you read a novel, for example, you want that to be a page turner. Basically, I was flipping through that sentences instead of getting bogged down. So, Kelly, as we've gone over, some of these concrete examples of what scientists should and should not do, maybe it's best to take a look and understand, what maybe is the most common mistake that you see in science writing today, and how to fix that.
Yeah, I think that just what we were talking about, passive voice is the biggest mistake that I see. I think that another big problem is not giving a good headline to your story. Mm-hmm. That's your number one chance to pull people in right there. And I think that marketers generally have to pay more attention to the power of their headline and get a little bit more creative when they are trying to appeal to their audience. You don't have to be coercive or inaccurate or anything like that. Just be direct and try to think of some really interesting keywords that are going to appeal to your audience. Those things sound simple, but I think that they can have a huge impact.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Kelly, for your contributions today. I'm very grateful that Eamon is writing the blog post. No pressure on the headline or the copy, and make sure you include active tense and be strong, short, and concise.
I can do that.
Well, this is it for the Best of February at Competitive. Feel free to email us, Twitter@competitive.com. Signing off, this is Ken Lee.
And Eamon.
And Kelly.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheerio.